During the toasts at my sister's engagement party, my dad said, "Every family has a black sheep." Everyone turned to me and laughed. I clinked my glass and said, "Every family also has a wallet. Mine just closed." I left without a word. Froze the honeymoon card. Flagged the venue charge. Canceled my account as financial guarantor. 2 hours later, the planner called her. "Payment failed. We're on hold." It was during the toast that everything broke. The lights were low, champagne was flowing, and people were 3 drinks deep into pretending we were one big happy family. My sister Emily stood there glowing like some Hallmark movie bride-to-be. Her fiancé Jordan looked genuinely happy, maybe the only one in that room who wasn't fake. Then my dad stood up, tapping his glass. Everyone turned. He didn't toast to love or commitment or how proud he was of Emily. He looked around and said, "Every family has a black sheep," and then they all turned to me. Not subtly. Heads turned. Someone even chuckled. My cousin snorted. My mom smiled politely like she was embarrassed on my behalf, but not enough to say anything. Emily just stood there smiling, letting it all happen. That's when I stood up. I raised my glass just as casually. Every family has a wallet. Mine just closed. And I left not in a rush. No one tried to stop me. That was the part that really hit. How easily I could just walk away and they all let me. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for a minute listening to nothing. I didn't feel angry. I felt awake like something that had been dragging me down for years had finally broken off. On the drive home, I started making calls. First, the bank. I froze the card I'd given Emily to use for wedding expenses. That alone killed the wedding gift, which was supposed to be $5,000 loaded onto it. Second, I logged into the venue portal and removed myself as the financial guarantor. Since everything was booked under my approval, the contract stalled immediately. Third, I canceled the automated payment plan I'd set up for the caterer. I didn't say a word to anyone, just watched the dominoes fall. Around 10 p.m., the phone started buzzing. Emily first, then Mom, then Jordan. I ignored all of them. I knew someone would get through eventually, and they did, but not to me. The event coordinator called Emily directly. The payment did not go through. "We are on hold." I imagine the look on her face when she realized the whole operation had been sitting on my shoulders the entire time. Jordan sent me a text later. Just one word. "Why?" I didn't answer. Not yet. He didn't deserve to be caught in it. But this wasn't about him. It wasn't even about the money. It was about what that toast made me realize. How normal it was for them to humiliate me. How comfortable they were expecting me to fund their milestones like I was some faceless donor who happened to share their last name. They never asked how I was doing. They never thanked me when I covered medical bills, bailed my dad out of credit card debt, paid off Emily's car loan when she defaulted. I never got a birthday gift from any of them that didn't come from a clearance rack or a regifted candle. But I kept showing up. I kept paying. I kept thinking that money would somehow earn me family. Turns out all it did was buy their silence until that toast. That toast woke me up, and they were about to learn what it meant to live without their wallet. The fallout started while I was still having my coffee the next morning. My phone lit up with notifications like it was on fire. Missed calls, voicemails, texts from numbers I hadn't saved in years. Emily left 6 voicemails back to back. Crying in one, furious in the next, then back to crying. I didn't listen to the rest. My mom's texts were worse, short, cold. All versions of call me. No asking how I was. No apology. Just this silent expectation that I'd fix what I broke. Except they'd been breaking me for years. My dad. Of course, he didn't say a word. Probably assumed I was bluffing and would crawl back with a check like I always did. Only one person called twice. Jordan. He didn't sound angry. Just tired. Said he didn't know I was paying for everything. Said he thought the wedding was a group effort. I told him no. It was a one-man show. And that man just quit. He asked if there was anything he could do to fix it. I told him it wasn't his to fix. Then he asked something nobody else had. "Are you okay?" That hit harder than I wanted to admit. A few days passed. Silence on my end. Storm on theirs. Then Emily showed up at my place. No call, no text, just rang the buzzer like we were still kids and she needed to borrow my laptop. I let her up. Maybe part of me thought she came to say sorry. She didn't sit down, didn't even look around, just walked in and launched straight into it. She said I humiliated her, that the engagement party was supposed to be perfect, that I turned it into a scene, that I made it about me. Then she said the one line that felt like a knife sliding under the ribs. You've never really been part of this family. You're just the guy who writes checks. That's all you're good for. Not thank you, not sorry. Not even we went too far. Just that. Just the truth. Plain and ugly. I opened the door and waited. She stood there like she wanted to keep going. But I think she knew it was over. She walked out and I didn't say a word. That night, my mom called. I answered. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask what Emily said. She asked if I could at least cover the remaining balance so they didn't lose their deposits. For the sake of keeping peace, I told her what Emily said. Told her exactly. There was a pause. Then my mom said she's emotional. You know how brides get. Like it was fine. Like I was supposed to absorb it. Like I should just keep handing out money while they spit in my face. So I made it official. I sent one message to the family group chat. Just one. I'm done. No more money. No more favors. No more pretending. Handle your own lives. Only Jordan responded. He wrote, I understand. That was it. Everyone else went quiet. But behind the scenes, I heard things. Emily tried to salvage the wedding without me. She went to our uncle. He laughed and said he wasn't stupid enough to lend to her again. She tried to use the frozen wedding card and got declined in front of the florist. Tried to book the venue again, but without a credit guarantee. They wanted full payment up front. Suddenly, the golden wedding was looking very silver, very DIY. I wasn't watching with joy. I wasn't happy they were scrambling. I just felt done. Like I'd finally stopped trying to prove I was worth keeping around. Still, in the back of my mind, I hoped that maybe without the money, they'd finally try being a family. That hope didn't last long. By the third week of silence, it was obvious I was erased. Not just ignored. Erased. No one asked where I went. No one reached out to fix anything. The wedding plans kept moving like I'd never been a part of them. They booked a Lauder banquet hall near the interstate. Emily posted photos of her new aesthetic and spun it like it was a conscious choice, not a fallback. She had this caption about humble beginnings and what really matters, which would have been funny if it wasn't so painfully fake. I would have laughed if it didn't sting so much. But the one person who didn't act like I vanished was Jordan. Quiet texts here and there. Mostly small talk, sometimes updates about the wedding. I never asked, but he kept sending them like he didn't want to completely shut the door. I didn't shut it either. Not for him. One Thursday night, Jordan called and asked if I could meet him. Just him, no. Emily said he had something to tell me. I didn't expect much. Maybe an awkward apology on behalf of his new in-laws, but I agreed. We met at this quiet bar near his office. When I walked in, he already had 2 beers on the table. He looked worse than I expected. Pale, sleep-deprived, like the wedding had taken more out of him than a full-time job. We started with the usual. How's work? How's life? But it didn't last. He got to the point pretty fast. He told me about a fight he and Emily had after everything happened. He brought up the money stuff, said it felt wrong how I was treated. She got defensive. Then she snapped and said something he hadn't been able to shake. She said you were never really her brother. You were just useful, that she only kept in touch with you because you made things easier. He paused there watching me like he was waiting for me to explode. I didn't. I just stared at my drink. She called you a walking bailout. He said quieter now. Said you were always desperate to be loved and she used that. Said it out loud like it was a joke. I didn't speak. Couldn't. Not because I was shocked, because I wasn't. That was the worst part. I already knew it. I just hadn't heard it spoken back to me word for word from someone who didn't have a reason to lie. He told me he defended me, told her that what she said was disgusting, that she needed to apologize, that she needed to realize I wasn't just a bank account. She told him he didn't understand the family dynamic and to stay out of it. Then he said something I didn't expect. I thought about walking away, canceling the whole thing, but I didn't. And now, honestly, I'm not sure if that makes me weak or just realistic. I didn't answer. He wasn't looking for advice. He just wanted to be heard. Then he said one more thing. If I ever leave her, it'll be because of this. Not the money. The way she talks about people. The way your parents nodded along. After that, we sat in silence for a while. Then we shook hands and I walked out. The wedding happened. I wasn't invited. Not officially anyway. My mom sent a group message to extended family explaining that I had other commitments and wouldn't attend, as if I had chosen not to show up to something I helped build. That night, while they danced and cut cake, I took myself to dinner. Ate alone at a quiet steakhouse with a glass of scotch and no one asking me to foot the bill. A few weeks later, a friend told me about a dinner party my parents hosted for close family after the wedding. They'd updated their will. Apparently, my name didn't come up once. My mom told someone I'd always preferred distance. They were rewriting the story already. I was the villain now. The selfish brother, the dramatic one, the one who withdrew support like I was a sponsor, not a sibling. But I didn't fight it. I let them keep their narrative. I had mine and mine wasn't finished because 2 months later, Karma knocked and it came in the form of a financial emergency. One they couldn't cover and one they were about to bring to my door. It started with a voicemail from my mom. Calm, polite, overly sweet. That's how I knew something was wrong. Hey honey, give me a call when you get a minute. Nothing urgent. Just need to ask you something. I deleted it. 2 days later, another call. Then a text from my dad, which was rare enough on its own. All it said was, "We need to talk, please." I ignored it. Then Jordan called. I picked up because I knew he wouldn't call unless it mattered. He asked if I had a minute, and when I said yes, he told me everything. My parents had co-signed a loan for a renovation project. Some terrible idea my dad had about flipping one of his old properties for retirement income. He maxed out their credit cards in the process, used a bunch of shady short-term loans to keep it going, and when the house didn't sell, they were stuck with a pile of debt and no buyer. Now, the lender was threatening legal action. They needed $20,000 fast to avoid court and seizure of assets. And of course, their plan was to ask me for help. I asked if Emily knew. She knows, Jordan said, but she doesn't care. She said it's not her problem. She told them to go to you. I stayed quiet for a second, then asked him what he thought. I think it's disgusting. I also think they don't deserve a cent. But I knew they'd come to you, and I didn't want them to catch you off guard. They tried the next day. My mom called again, voice shaky this time. My dad followed up with a text saying they needed to sit down as a family. I told them to email me the details. They sent me a long dramatic message about the unforeseen crisis and how this was a one-time ask. No apologies. No acknowledgement of anything that had happened. Just a request for a $20,000 loan with vague promises of repayment once the house sold, whenever that would be. I waited 2 days. Then I sent a reply. I said I was willing to lend $2,500. That was it. But only if they signed a legally binding agreement stating they would repay it in full within 6 months with 6% interest. I attached the draft contract, everything clean and proper. A few hours later, my mom called me in a panic. This doesn't work for us. She said, it's not how family handles things. I said, neither is calling your son a black sheep and using him as a walking ATM. She got quiet. Then I told her this would be the last conversation we ever had if she couldn't respect one thing. Boundaries. She said I was cruel, that I was punishing them. I said I was finally done playing the fool. Then I hung up. I haven't heard from them since. They didn't sign the contract. They didn't get the money. They sold the house for a loss 3 months later and ended up with nothing. I found out through Jordan, who said my dad's credit took another hit, and they had to downsize into some depressing condo outside town. Emily never called, never said a word. She'd gotten what she wanted. The wedding happened. The money train was dead, and she moved on like I'd never existed. But I didn't care anymore because I finally had something they never gave me. Peace. After they lost the house and moved into that depressing little condo out near the old train station, the silence became the new normal. Not just from Emily, she was gone for good, but from my parents, too. The same people who once called me 5 times a week for favors couldn't even manage a passive-aggressive holiday card. It was like they had officially written me out of the family. I kept waiting for someone to blink first. A guilt trip text, a birthday message, a thinly disguised check-in about finances, but nothing came. I thought it would hurt more than it did, but mostly I just felt lighter. With the money back in my hands, I started living for myself. Upgraded my car, took a real vacation, got into woodworking, something I always wanted to try, but never had the time or headspace for. No one asked me to cover a surprise root canal or loan them gas money or front a down payment on a couch. I started sleeping better, eating better, laughing again. Jordan still kept in touch quietly, like he didn't want Emily to know. He'd send the occasional article, some sarcastic message about his in-laws, or a photo of their dog sitting on top of the dishwasher. Normal things, human things. A few months after the wedding, we met up again. He looked worn down, not in a dramatic way, just slowly unraveling. He told me Emily had been spending wildly, that she quit her job without telling him and was now rebranding as a lifestyle influencer, that she refused to touch her savings for anything less than brand building. So bills fell on him. She'd started calling him cheap for not picking up the tab on things like patio furniture and expensive throw pillows. He told me the worst part wasn't the spending. It was realizing she'd learned all of it from watching our parents. I used to think your family was just chaotic, he said, but now I think they were actually grooming her to believe people exist for what they can give her. He wasn't asking for my opinion. He just needed to say it out loud. Then he said something I didn't expect. If I walk away from this someday, I want you to know. I don't want to lose you, too. I told him he wouldn't. That was the first time I really meant it. Then came the unexpected. 2 months later, I got a knock at my door. Not a call, not a text, a knock. I opened it and there they were. My mom and dad both standing there like they were selling something. I didn't say anything, just waited. My dad held out a manila envelope. My mom looked like she'd rehearsed a speech but forgot the lines. We signed the contract. My dad said, the $2,500 offer. We're ready to take it. I blinked. That was months ago. We know, he said. We've been thinking. My mom jumped in. We want to fix things, but I could see it in her eyes. She didn't come to fix anything. They came because they were desperate, because they thought I might still have a little guilt left to squeeze. I asked them one thing. Why now? My dad glanced at my mom and she spoke. We found out Emily took out a credit card in our name, she said. Maxed it out. Bought some camera equipment and a rug. She said it was a misunderstanding, but we're stuck with it. They weren't here because they miss me. They were here because the golden child burned them, too. I took the envelope, flipped it open. The contract was there, signed, dated, exactly as I'd written it. I handed it back. You had your shot. The contract's expired. My mom looked stunned. You're refusing to help. I'm refusing to be used again. Then I closed the door. I stood there for a while after that. Not angry, not sad, just done. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. And for the first time in my life, I knew exactly where I stood. After I shut the door, I stood there for a long time, not moving, not thinking about what had just happened, just letting it be over, like letting go of a rope I'd been pulling on for years, hoping someone on the other end would finally pull back. They didn't knock again. No pounding, no pleading, just quiet footsteps down the hall and the sound of the elevator doors closing. I thought that might be the final chapter, but people like them don't let you go quietly. They come back when things get worse. And they did. 2 weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, just my name written neatly across the front. Inside was a handwritten letter from my dad. 2 pages double-sided. Every word written like it was pulled from a script. A strange mix of nostalgia and manipulation. He talked about how proud he was of the man I'd become, how he regretted certain words said in justice, and how he hoped we could one day return to being a family. Then at the end, in small print, almost like a footnote, if you're still willing, we could really use that $2,500 to sort out the credit issue. We'll sign whatever you need. That was the moment I realized they still didn't get it. It wasn't about the $2,500. It never was. It was about them only showing up when something fell apart. About them never showing up for me unless they wanted something. About years of being the afterthought that paid the bills. I didn't reply. I didn't send the letter back. I didn't even shred it. I just put it in a drawer with all the other things I stopped pretending would change. That weekend, Jordan came by. He didn't text first. Just knocked and stood there with a six-pack and a tired smile. I let him in. He told me he'd left, packed a bag, took the dog, and moved in with a friend. Said it wasn't dramatic. No screaming. Just a quiet realization one morning that he couldn't spend the next 40 years wondering who his wife was going to humiliate next. He looked relieved, lighter. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. It felt like the kind of conversation I should have had with a brother years ago, except it was with the man who married my sister and decided in the end to choose decency over blood. When he left that night, I felt a strange peace, not joy, not closure, just a quiet, grounded understanding that some people are meant to be family and some people just happen to share your last name. Since then, I haven't heard from my parents again. Not on birthdays, not on holidays, not even when tax season came around. And I knew they were probably drowning in paperwork and late fees. Emily, radio silence. Probably off pretending nothing ever happened. Spinning her life into a version of reality that doesn't include me. And honestly, that's fine because I've got something now that I never had before. My life lived on my terms, untouched by their expectations, their guilt, their games. I'm not the black sheep. I'm just the only one who got out. It had been almost a year since I cut them off. No contact, no drama, just silence and peace. I stopped checking their socials months ago. Even Jordan said he hadn't heard anything since the divorce was finalized. Clean break, no assets to split, no property, no apology. Typical. Then last Friday, I got a message from an unknown number. It was just one sentence. You might want to check on Dad. No name, no context, no follow-up. I stared at it for a while, not sure if it was bait or something real. It didn't sound like my mom, and it definitely wasn't Emily. She wouldn't send a warning if I was on fire. For a minute, I considered ignoring it, just deleting it and moving on like nothing happened. But something about it stuck. The wording, the timing, the fact that it came almost exactly 1 year to the day since the engagement party. So, I did the thing I swore I wouldn't do. I opened a browser, typed in his name, and hit search. And what I found wasn't what I expected. No obituary, no hospital record, no court case, just one thing. A newly registered business in his name filed 3 weeks ago in my city. No address, just a registration with the state. And something about that felt off. He was broke, credit destroyed, living off whatever retirement scraps they hadn't burned through. He wasn't a business guy. He never even learned how to use online banking. But here he was, launching something quietly under the radar. I closed the tab, then opened it again, and this time I kept digging.